What is chaos? Chaos is something that it feels almost very cliches when you speak about it, and when you talk about it in certain concepts. But when you dig deeper into chaos, you realize how expansive that is, and how much power it has to it, how much disruptive power it has to the human soul. And the way we talk about this, we're going to talk about it in the sense of the Joker, because the Joker itself is it's very much that idea. What has given the Joker so much staying power within the concept of villains throughout humanity. If you look at most of the concepts, films, movies, books, the Joker stands out as one of the best villains ever created. And I think it's because that very core concept of chaos can be incarnated in a multitude of ways. From something like the modern Absolute Joker, which is a complete different variation than something like Christopher Nolan's Joker. You have this character that can be molded and can take that idea of complete disorganization of the human being and transform it into different assets, and you can tell so many stories behind it. That's why the Joker has become one of the paradigms for Batman villains, because Batman functions as order, where the Joker functions almost as chaos. But both of them are combined almost by the same ideas in themselves. When you look at the chaos between the Joker, you have to look at it almost like a family that goes through a tragic incident, and everybody within that family loses the sense of self. The parents are, let's say they die in an accident, right? Then the children are left homeless and they'll turn to crime. Some of them turn to crime instead of having beautiful, bright futures. So what you have there is like something that chaos was introduced into the family, right? And once it was introduced into the family, everything that was organized, this normal state of the human being to go on and follow certain ideas, it goes askew, right? But it doesn't just distort it in something material. It's not just the fact that the parents are dead and that the children are taking different roads in life. But it's that the human soul itself, it decides that normality doesn't exist. That something that it should be normal to the human being is not something that's really there. It's almost like a joke, right, when you really think about it. Which is precisely what the Joker tries to make up of humanity and society, that is truthfully all a joke. When let's say when the parents died, was there really a sense of normality, or is this the actual normality of human existence? The children lost their parents, so they don't have their love in their life, so they become different, right? They become something completely askew. Even their souls, they might become bitter and remorseful people that take life and lash at it. Or some of them might be good persons, right? But there's almost that distortion of the human. For the Joker, it happened about the same way. And it's very important, right, that sense of normality with the concept of chaos, because normality is almost the state of life. You wake up one day, you go to school, maybe you come back in the afternoon and you play video games, and you have a sort of normal life. You're going to go to college, and then you're going to go have a family and children. You have all these patterns that are set, that if you introduce true chaos to them, all of that can be distorted into something completely radical. And this is how Joker sees that perspective. For the Joker, he used to have a family, he has to have a normal life, and the expectancy of a normal life, which is very important to order. But then chaos was introduced to his persona. And in this chaos, he fell down in an acid bath and completely distorted him. And instead of suffering, he became an agent of complete chaos, right? Suffering became laughter. And laughter is very important, because laughter is the opposite that you would see when you have pain. And you see this in the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movies, where he's always laughing at things that you shouldn't laugh. Because that is disorder to this maximum extreme. Is when you take the soul of a motivation that you're supposed to have and you completely disorganize it. Disorganization is also very important, right? Like you have order that builds itself. But then you have something that grabs that normality of execution and says, what if we organize it differently? What if when somebody dies, you laugh at it? It has to be something to that perspective, something that's constantly taking what is normal and saying, no, you can be like this. And it's something that it's almost like a inversion, not an inversion of human reality, because an inversion, let's say, would be the opposite of humanity. But in human living, you have order. This will be something that decides that none of that truly exists, that is just an imagination, right? A joke. You're just telling yourself that, and it's laughable, right? Because none of it is true. This concept of disorganizing what is real into something different is something that Joker, it's the very core of the character, right? It's something that he laughs at the pain of murder of a children, something horrible happening to them, because he understands that the normality that you seek, or the thought pattern, or all the ideas, the psychology behind it, it doesn't have to be there if you don't want to. It's almost like a human perception that is created, right? Things like morals and ethic. None of that really exists if you don't want it to be. And the Joker laughs at that. He laughs at your execution of normality. For Batman, it was about the same idea. But for him, it became something different, right? Like the Batman lost his parents within an alleyway when his parents were shot and murdered, and in there he was born as something different, right? Chaos became part of Batman itself, the same as it happened to the Joker in a simple normal day, which is a normal day, right? You went with your parents to watch a movie theater, but when you walked down the alley, they were shot, so your life became completely different, which is the same idea that it became with the Joker, with the acid bat. But Chaos took a human and disorganized them. It disorganized his entire life into something very much different. For Batman, he believes in something that is order. But when you look at Batman too, after the aspect of chaos happening in his life, you can't really look at it and say that this is orderly, right? Because even though Batman seeks order within humanity, is he in a complete state of chaos or disorder, or if this is who he's supposed to be? Chaos itself has taken a place and disorganized his life into something completely different. And this is what the Joker believes in. When you look at the Nolan films, you kind of get a true understanding of how chaos is symbolized by the Joker and how that becomes really his driving factor within the idea, is to turn as much as he possible can into this random sense of destruction for what's the order of society. For example, when you take somebody like Harvey Dent, what the Joker does is drive into that moment of complete chaotic randomness where he becomes Two-Face, right? The flipping of the coin is randomness being executed. The human being doesn't, he went from being something that believed in this total ethics and justice to being able to fix in the city to something completely different, right? Something that functions in complete randomness and chaotic sense of existence. That flipping of the coin, that's what the Joker did to Harvey Dent, right? It spread its own idea of chaos into another human being, and just it spreads it out and creates more and more as it continues. And this is what the Joker is trying to do: disorganize society in a multitude of levels. At one point, you have the people of Gotham cities, right? Then placing this gambit where they either kill the prisoners on the boat or they die themselves. And what the Joker is trying to do is once again introduce that sense of chaos to the human being to a really monumental level, right? Because most human beings even look at themselves as creatures of sort of decency. They believe that they can make most of the right choices, and when it comes to being a good person, most of them believe that they can. But the Joker sees that differently. He sees the same chaos within them as the same chaos that he has felt for having just a regular bad day. So he introduces that same bad day, something that really introduces a chaos in a multitude of level to these people. And now they have to make this ethical choice, the highest of choices that you could possibly make, which is to kill another human being. And he introduces it to regular people. And now they have to question themselves, right? Like the sense of chaos is introduced into them. Everything that they believe in becomes very different. And especially because they have to survive, right? So it puts them in that position where it's like, are you truly who you are, or you're really just something else within you, right? Something that's going to disturb them and shake them randomly forever. And a lot of those people, once they walked out of their boat, a lot of them chose the idea of like hitting another, right? And some of them spread those words around. And that completely disrupted them, right? Their very sense of the self and how they would treat others became chaos in itself. The Joker still, to some degree, probably won in some essence, right? Looking at the Dark Knight, I really think to the extreme levels that the Joker caused chaos throughout the entire city of Gotham. In the multitude of levels across so many people. First, he took the criminal world, right? He completely destroyed their hierarchy and understanding and their sort of judicial system of laws that they all had created, and this control that they have of society. He burned their whole money. And that was, and even within the criminal world, that they also have this understanding of order that the Joker completely turns into absolute chaos. And then he does the same thing for look at something like the hospital. The hospital itself, he blows it up. That's something very important, right? The hospital itself, it's a place where you find some solace from pain. And the Joker, what he creates again, more chaos in it, right? He creates this social chaos that continues to spread. If you're a Gotham citizen, by this point, you don't understand where you could possibly feel safe. He went also to the police station and he blew it up. another place where you feel you find justice or people that will help you in its presence. But even that, he distorts it. By the end of the movie too, he had caused so much chaos that he distorts the image of Batman into something more chaotic, that instead of being a vigilante was seen almost as a murderer. He destroyed his image and made it into something, again, something that now feels like there's a sense of where there was normality of understanding and order. Now it's become absolute chaos. And he did this through a multitude of characters throughout the film. Harvey Dent was probably one of the biggest one. But then he also was killing a lot of the politicians and lawyers, people that we have placed in positions of hierarchy and power because they're able to maintain some structure within the society. And what the Joker does, he murders them, right? He murders them in front of people, creating absolute chaos. This was like something that once you look at it, you can see how much destruction he's causing at a multitude of levels in society. And at a certain point, that feeling of order, it's very much non-existence, right? At least not within that Gotham City. There was just too much disorder. In order to look at the Joker, you always have to look at what gives him meaning and what creates him, and that very much becomes Batman. Batman becomes the opposite from the Joker for a reason, right? Because Batman itself is constantly creating that sense of order within society, while the Joker is trying to test his ideology that chaos is embedded in every single human being, even in Batman. He tries to put Batman to his limits as much as possible by creating as much murder and chaos he can in society. Batman doesn't believe in the idea of killing him because he believes if he kills him, he will be agreeing with the idea of chaos. And that in itself, as something almost objectively, is bigger than Batman. But I think that question does have to come to a point where it's like, should you let the Joker live? Because by doing so, you're also allowing the very concept of chaos to spread damage in all of society. In the comic book The Killing Joke, I think this question comes into play. Because after one point, the Joker shoots Barbara Gordon and she ends up losing her ability to walk. And this in itself, you think about it, the Joker is continues, like after so many times, as so many battles with Batman, his evil continues to reign, right? His sense of chaos continues to spread, and Batman hasn't been able to subdue it because the Joker usually always escapes wherever he puts him into. Every time he sends him to Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, he's able to escape it. So you end up with this system, right, where it's like anything that the Batman does, it's not working with the Joker, right? His sense of chaos is not something that you can fix with pretty words, or by you believing objectively that you can fix him. Ultimately, when you reach the end point of The Killing Joke, you end up answering the question of if Batman should kill the Joker. Because if he kills the Joker wins the objective narrative, let's say. Something where he has introduced maliciousness inside of Batman and a sort of disorder and chaos to his very idea of society. And that's just how Batman sees it. He believes that there's something that if he will break down if he kills the Joker. And the Joker would, in theory, win. But in the end of The Killing Joke, after the Joker tells a joke, Batman starts laughing. It's something almost filled with, like, there's something so dark about the Batman's laugh. Something almost completely filled with madness, because it's now almost crossing into that point of chaos. The chaos where he has to kill the Joker. So Batman stretches his hand to the neck of the Joker. And the comic book makes it almost ambiguous of whether he kills the Joker or not. And we see just the light between them almost dimming, in the chaos of the darkness consuming both of them, right? So something must have happened. And some believe that he killed the Joker, right? And I think that's the delusion of the comic book writer as well. But would that have been the right choice, right? Is that the only way that you can stop a sort of chaos like the Joker, where there's nothing that you can do about it, and the more you let it live, it will continue to disrupt others. It will continue to cause endless chaos, because there's just no stopping it, right? There's nothing to fix this sort of disorder. And that's the point of the discussion. Like, at what point can you have so much disorder that no sense of order could ever fix it? Is the Joker that disorderly that it just doesn't matter? There's no words, there's nothing to come into play. And this is why Joker itself is almost chaos incarnate. It is a question that you can't answer to fix it. This is not like a road, this is not like a city. You can't give him medicine to fix it. You can't do anything. You can't speak to him. It's not like going to a hospital and fixing a human being, or atomically changes his mind and matter. There's no question that this is something that is chaos in itself. So if Batman were to kill the Joker, then you would end up with something where it's like that was objectively something good for society, but that's a sin that Batman will have to walk with it himself. It would be something where he would be almost filled with the same chaos as the Joker for as long as he lived afterwards. Something like a joke that would be keep retelling for himself, in which he thought that objective goodness would be able to overcome this sense of evil. But this sense of chaos, this sort of chaos that exists, is something evil, right? Something that you can't fix. So only destruction was ever its ultimate goal. It's something like when you look at Lucifer and divinity, right? At the end of times, Satan himself will be sent to a pit of fire, right, of an inferno. Because why? Because there's no way to fix that. It is innately what it is, and the Joker is that. It's something that there's no redemption to the Joker. There's nothing funny. It wants to be that at all possible points, and because it wants to be that at all possible points, it's something that can exist in a world that wants to have a meaning of order. When you have something like the Joker that is Chaos Incarnate itself, something that would always be out of tune, you realize that that is something that you cannot win against, or in that chaos in itself, or who he is as the Joker, will always win. The Joker will never ever lose, even when he gets captured by Batman. As long as he continues to beat himself, he proves the very identity that life has no order, that you can get to this extreme sense of disorderly, and for that to be the truth of reality. As long as he continues himself, he will probably die in fire, right, or be destroyed by Batman at one point. But the Joker will forever be the winner, because he never believed that it's in the order of society, and his very existence forever can prove that he didn't have to believe. He will always be the rebellious one against the order of human creation. I think ultimately when we look at the Joker, it will forever be one of the best villains ever, because it truly resonates with the act of the human being that wants to rebel. When you want to rebel from order, from everything that's good in society, that in itself is the Joker. It's something that wants to institute his own level of chaos and disorganization is in society. It's something very pure and malicious to the way that human existence is meant to be lived. GG's fam.